Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's Career Chat. I'm Krista Harmon, a workforce development consultant with the Kent ISD, and I'm delighted to have Sarah Berry with us today. She's an event planner. Welcome, Sarah.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So we here at the Career Chats love to take our mentors back to high school and find out if being an event planner is something that you wanted to do back then. Tell us about that early thinking, Sarah.
Yeah, so it was a huge part of my high school experience actually. I was very involved in school. I was in orchestra and student council and theater. But through being in student council, I found a lot of really good opportunities to I just naturally started doing event planning activities, and we had like different charity events that we would kind of do. And I was doing it. I remember telling my mom, I'm like, I like sending these emails and like doing these things. Like it was really exciting for me. And I knew I wanted to do something that had the opportunity to kind of be more of an entrepreneurial experience if that was something that I kind of wanted to get into. But yeah, through student council, I just took a lot of like leadership opportunities. And then I did some research. I was like, is this even a possible career that I'm able to do? And I found out that it was, and picked out some schools that I really liked. And yeah, high school was a very big part of like me finding out how much I really enjoyed doing that for sure.
I love that you had that early experience with student council. I would like to take you back even earlier. Were you kind of a little girl that did plan little parties and stuff? Do you have any
I
great little
did.
stories? Yeah, tell us about that.
Yeah, I did. I just remember like birthday parties were always a big thing. I always had a theme. There was always like an activity going on. I remember one year I did like a Hunger Games themed birthday party, and I even like planned a big game, and all my friends went to the park, and like it was glow sticks and we all had to run around and pretend like we were in the Hunger Games or whatever. Or like, so yeah, there were definitely memories of like Hannah Montana parties or Hunger Games parties like growing up that I really enjoyed doing as well.
It's so fun. And I guess young people, as you're watching this, pay attention to what you did as a child and what gave you joy, because those are clues that you should be considering for sure. So you're in high school, you're helping plan events, and you started to research some schools. Tell us about that process. Was that difficult? Are there many schools with this kind of program? What was your experience like?
Yeah, I'm there. So the broad kind of degree in like in most schools, it's hospitality. Like I know Grand Valley has a great hospitality tourism management program. It's kind of all under that umbrella. I really wanted to find a school that was specific in event planning because I knew exactly kind of that's the area I wanted to go into. So once I kind of figured out that it was like under the hospitality umbrella, I was able to pick out a few schools, and there are quite a few schools that do have that program like specific to event planning. And then not only just like in person, but there are like online schools as well. But yeah, I just I ended up going to Indiana University, Purdue University, Indianapolis. It's a mouthful of words. But they had through IU like a great event planning degree. And then just kind of getting a feedback, like when I was going to orientation, to getting the feel of the professors, kind of what the program was, asking a lot of questions was a big thing. But yeah, that's kind of like what it was like for me. And then I just knew it was the right fit for me. I could feel it. So I decided to go for it.
That's such an encouragement to young people because I hear that too. And I know with my own children, you just kind of feel the fit. You just know that's the right spot. But the fact that you were being intentional and asking questions and talking to the professors, you weren't just counting on what you were seeing on their online catalog. I want to just point that out. That's great. Best practices as far as career development, Sarah, that you did.
Yeah.
So what was your college experience like? Did you get involved where you started planning events as part of student groups or anything like that?
Yeah, so my experience once I got to college was less of like student groups and more of like real work experience. Hospitality is definitely like work experience focused, and I kind of knew that going into it. So I wanted to get as much, not just as much, but a diverse like experience while I was in school. So, like when I started, I got an on campus job as an event services assistant. So, I kind of played a front desk role for our student affairs office, but then I also got to work with students and coordinating their events in the building, and then worked with different departments. So, it was a great like entry level position, and it being a part of the school was a huge benefit to me too. It just, they were flexible with my school schedule. There were a lot of perks working for the school, and they respected me being a student first, which was important. They taught me a lot. So yeah, I started there, and then I just honestly did as many internships as I could. So I remember freshman year, like summer of freshman year, I got my first internship in weddings was primarily what I started in as a coordination or a day of coordinator. So I did that. And then that next internship I got, I believe, was with the Indie Humane Society. And we were planning they have like a year, they have a mutt strut event where everybody can walk I went to school in Indianapolis, so everybody would walk their animals around the speedway, and you could literally bring like pigs or dogs, whatever animal that you wanted to bring. So I helped plan that event. And then I also worked for the Indiana State Fair and kind of helped them develop like their concessions and event management, kind of manage those vendors as well. So yeah, I think that was my biggest takeaway. And that really helped me out of college as well, get my first job, because they could look at my resume and see I had all of that experience.
Yeah, and so I want to just help the young people who are watching this. How does it even work to get your first internship? Is there something at the college that's helping you? Was it networking yourself to find that first one as a day coordinator, which you might want to share what that is? What is a day coordinator? And then tell us how you found out about it.
Yeah, so a day of coordinator, I've seen it most for weddings, but obviously if you're the event planner for a different type of event, you're kind of the day of coordinator. But it's really that person making sure you're on time, like with the timeline that you've talked through with like the bride and the couple, setting things up. That's a big thing, prepping things, making sure that they have a timeline that's cohesive, and really thinking about all those little details. And you're really doing all the parts of the day that they don't want to do, which also honestly isn't really that awful. It's kind of fun. And so yeah, it's kind of just making sure, like, communicating with the vendors, making sure you're talking to the DJ. Are we on the same page? It's a lot of different moving parts. So staying organized and all of that stuff is super important. And what was the second part of your question? Sorry.
And how did you even hear about that? Because you're just, a freshman in college, so it's not like you have all this experience under your belt. How did you even hear about that internship?
Yeah, so my school specifically had Jag Jobs was like the name of the website, but they did specifically promote internships or other like part-time or full-time positions that they thought might be beneficial to students. But honestly, I just looked on Indeed, and I was just looking in the location, and Indeed is what I go to a lot. It's a great tool to use. But it just was able to provide me, and I saw it, and I was just, you know what, I'm going to try. And I went for it and I got it.
That's great. And again, I want to just point out that, again, you're taking initiative. These aren't things that just come to you, that someone calls up, hey, Sarah, I have this opportunity for you. Yes, that can happen in life, but at this early part of your career, you're grinding, you're looking for opportunities. And I guess I want people to hear that. It sounds like those events at the Humane Society with people walking their animals around and the state fair, like there's some creativity in that. Tell us about what type of skill sets you think make a good event coordinator.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think creativity is a big one. That's the part that I really drew me towards events, because I love that creative element and made me excited and really enjoy my job and what I was working on. But definitely communication is a big one when you're working with when you're like essentially the leader of the event, and you're supposed to make sure everything happens. You have to have good communication skills and time management skills to be able to go up to people and be like, okay, this and this and this is happening at the right times. Make sure everything's going smoothly. So yeah, communication is a huge part. Time management is a huge part, and just like detail orientation, or like even the way that you take notes and things. Like in my job now, I'm always taking notes on every little thing. I'm like, I told my boss, I was like, if I'm making too many notes, just let me know, because it's just a lot of moving parts to remember and a lot of moving pieces. And especially when you're working with weddings, it's high stakes for the client, because it's supposed to be like their big day, like best day of their lives. So making sure you have all of those things is super important.
Yeah, that's great. So why don't you take a minute or two to describe what an event planner is for those. I mean, obviously we have a sense of what event planning is, but as you talk about what maybe your day is like, what are some of the myths that you want people to know? Like, that's not what you see on TV or anything.
Yeah, well, it's not, I feel like, especially in like rom-coms and things, if you see a wedding planner, like it's all like butterflies and roses, and it's really not all the time. I've had to do some pretty unfun things, but I think, yeah, that would be a myth. And But with that as well, there's a lot of opportunity to grow and do different types of things. Like you don't just have to do weddings, you can do sports is a big thing. And that's something I really wish I would have gotten more experience in because I think that would be fun. But yeah, there are a lot of different types of things that you can do. And day to day wise at my job, every day can look different, kind of depending what's going on. And obviously, some days I go in and I'm just in the office, kind of sending emails or making phone calls or scheduling meetings and things. But other times I get there and it's like, okay, the event is starting. Like, what do I need to do to get prepared? Do I have all the information I need? And then, yeah.
Yeah, and I'll definitely dig into that a little bit, because this is a really big industry, right? There's so many potential employers for you as an event planner. And you had mentioned, like the Indiana State Fair and Humane Society and even weddings. But there are people, I would imagine, that you went to school with that do really large conventions, for example, or working at a hospital and dealing with some of their events. So why don't you just share some of what you know about maybe where some of your classmates have landed, and then I'll ask a few more questions about your day to day.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's definitely a wide range of different areas that you can kind of go into under event planning. Like I mentioned before, hospitality and tourism is a huge part of it. So working for a company like Experience Grand Rapids, which is like the tourism marketing organization. So they try to draw people in to come to Grand Rapids. You can work for them and they kind of like work with the event venues in Grand Rapids to try if they have a client that's like, I need a space for my 1,000 person event, they'll kind of direct them and work with venues to so both parties are happy. So you can kind of go more the tourism route. You can go more hotels. So hotels are definitely its own beast and more corporate but bigger events. You can go sports, like I said previously, which that's a huge industry. And there's even like a more targeted niche. We had like a specific sports management program at my school, so that was something like built for those event planners that were looking for that. But yeah, conventions are a huge thing, like DeVos Hall, all those like bridal shows. There's an event planner there coordinating it. I know in Indianapolis, we had a huge convention hall and we had like a lot of like the Future Farmers of America came and different organizations like that. So that's definitely a huge thing. Weddings, like I've said before, especially in Grand Rapids, that's a big industry. So there are a lot of different opportunities that they can kind of go into based on what your likes are.
Yeah, and I think that's very helpful. And so really your degree, your undergrad degree would take you to any of those places, or are those special like certifications or master's degree that you have to get to start to specialize, or is it all kind of encompass?
In my specific degree, it's all kind of encompassed. My like title for my degree is tourism, conventions, and event management. So very specific to that niche, but would be able to kind of cover all of those industries as well.
Great, thank you. You had mentioned some skill sets that kind of really being creative, how important communication is, that time management and detail oriented. It sounds like you also have to be pretty direct because you have to like maybe wrangle in a disc jockey or something. So that some of that leadership that you had developed helps make that you're kind of more prepared for that kind of role.
Yeah, definitely. I think those early experiences definitely helped me. I think a personal challenge I'm still kind of learning to work through is I'm very much a people pleaser. So sometimes it's hard for me to like tell clients no, but obviously they can't do whatever they want. So I'm still kind of learning in that field of the best way to kind of go about that. But yeah, leadership experiences, and if you like being a leader, it's definitely the position for you because you're the person like directing people and things.
Yeah, and what I also want to point out is those skill sets are very transferable into other environments. I mean, they're just a great set of skill sets.
Definitely.
Yeah. So when you think about some of your favorite projects, so share with everybody where you work now and what is kind of the best part of your days and what is the part you don't like. And I'm wondering kind of specifically about schedules, like
Yeah.
working nights and weekends potentially. What do you want young people to know about the reality of event planning?
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I'm an event coordinator at the downtown market. So I like work with clients for like corporate, social, and wedding events. So social could be like baby showers or birthday parties or whatnot. Um, but yeah, I'm sorry. I'm like, your question is fleeting my mind as I'm trying to answer it.
Oh,
Ask me
I
one more
like that
time.
too. Our brains are very similar, Sarah, so no worries at all. I'm wondering what kind of your favorite part that you just love and some of maybe the challenges of being an event planner, maybe the things that you don't like.
Yeah. Well, I personally like that every day can be different. I like that switch up, or honestly, even sometimes when my schedule isn't consistent because I have to go in if there's an event happening or whatnot. But I like that. I like that change. But like another part of my favorite job are like just like special event days where we get to come in and I get to see all the moving parts. We do different like larger public events as well, so I like helping with those and just kind of feeling the energy and getting to meet new people. That's a big part of my job, is having that people personality. So meeting new people, doing new things, kind of running around in that hectic energy right before the event, I personally really love. Things that I don't necessarily really love would also be my schedule. Sometimes I am at work until 1 a.m., which isn't the most fun thing, or there might be a DJ taking forever to load out and you're there till 2 a.m., which was not in your original plan. So definitely the schedule isn't always ideal. And it is a lot of nights and weekends for sure, because that's when people want to have their events. But I think for me personally, it's like kind of the trade-off. It's like, I feel like for me, there are more pros than the cons. Okay, I can kind of deal with that negative aspect of it.
Yeah, and you're young too. And like you shared earlier, there's so many different environments. It could be event planning, that there are people who have a 9 to 5, that they are part of a business that you can be doing the same stuff during the day, right? So
Exactly.
there's place to evolve based on your age. I'm
Right.
thinking of, yeah, I did events when I was young. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say my boss doesn't come in for events or anything. She still works 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. But yeah, I mean, if that's something that because I know some of people like just get bored doing that, coming in 9 to 5, sitting at the desk or whatnot. So this might be a career for you if you think that you might like the change up.
And I think that's part of the self-assessment, young people, is to look at yourself, like, what do I like? What do I want? And start to fine tune. And that's just what Sarah did when she was in high school, that she liked it so much that she pursued it. When you think back to high school, is there anything you'd like to recommend to young people as far as preparing for something like this, that things they should be doing in high school to learn some skills and maybe part of a networking situation?
Yeah, I think putting yourself out there is a big one. I know that I was really nervous about it, but really pay attention to what you enjoy as well. Like I found this because I found out that I enjoyed doing it through things I was involved in with school. So I feel like that puts together both like the putting yourself out there part, but then also like paying attention to what you enjoy. And maybe it's something you enjoy that doesn't seem like a very obvious career path forward, but do some research on it. Don't just like discount it right there, because I didn't even realize event planning was a thing when I was in high school, and it is obviously. So yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. What's been one of your best events, like the best memory? You're like, oh my gosh, I got to be part of that.
Well, a few months ago, we were able to run an event for the governor, which was really cool. And she even had like her Secret Service people there, and I had to like coordinate with them. And it's kind of funny. They were like literally behind her like all the time, and they were talking into their like earpieces or whatnot, kind of like you see in movies. But I not only got to run the event for her, but I got to meet her, and not only her, but a bunch of like state representatives and legislators. Like it was really an awesome experience. So that was one that definitely sticks in my mind, that like something that I'm never going to forget for sure.
Yeah, and that's one of those transferable jobs I just want to point out too, because your event planning experience could move you right into being part of a legislative staff who organizes things for Governor Whitmer, right?
Right.
I have a person in my life who works for a federal law enforcement, and they have to do all sorts of logistics and planning when they bring in the president, for example. So I love that your skills are so transferable to some different areas.
Definitely. And that is something in college that they've talked about. That's like its own sector, is like political events and things that you can do. So if that's something you're interested in too, that is an option.
That's great. When you go back to your internship, and again, I want young people to kind of understand some of these next steps. Sometimes we get nervous, like, how are we going to know how to do that? Can you help young people understand that that was part of the learning, that you didn't know it all when you were in school, and that sometimes it's uncomfortable?
Yeah, it's definitely can definitely be uncomfortable, or like going into interview and like reading the job description and not thinking that, well, like I don't have any experience in those types of things. But my professors told me when I was in college, if you're applying for jobs where you can, where there isn't that bullet point of thing that like you haven't experienced before or haven't done, then you're not like leveling up, I guess is the word that they used. But I think I try to look for positions specifically that have things that I don't necessarily have experience with, because I know professionally that's going to be an opportunity that I can grow, and kind of develop my skills more and develop a wider skill set as well. But yeah, I think internships too were less daunting for me because I knew that they knew I was coming in as a student and I was ready to learn. So I think definitely taking advantage of those internships really helped me too, and not just doing one. Like that was all that was technically required. I was required one, but I did three, and then I had two other jobs on top of that. So I think even like if you're even interested in the hospitality industry, that is like the biggest takeaway, and the thing that helped me get the farthest is getting that experience and developing that wider skill set for sure.
Yeah, and so when you think about graduation from Indiana University, what was that first job then? Was it from networking or part of your internship? Did those things come together? Did you have to apply for your first job and look at Indeed again, or what was that kind of transitional step for you?
Yeah, so I looked at Indeed again. So I went to school in Indianapolis, but I'm back in Grand Rapids now. So I moved back home. So that was the one disappointing part for me, I think, is because I did develop a lot of good connections out in Indianapolis. And there's definitely being in a city affected my experience as well, because there were just already so many more opportunities than if I were in a different area for my specific job. But yeah, I just looked on Indeed and interviewed, and I interviewed at a couple different places and then kind of chose what I thought was best and moved on from there. And but yeah.
So as we're getting close to our time, but I guess I'd like you to think back to your high school self or even your college self, or I guess now, what are some of those lessons learned? Like, man, if I would have known that then, I could have saved myself that XYZ step. Is there anything that comes to mind?
Yeah, I think let me think. I think we kind of talked a lot about it already, but really putting yourself out there really does do things that are a little bit scary, because it's only gonna well, it might not benefit you, but most of the time it's gonna benefit you. In career world, it may seem scary, or you may not feel like you are qualified to do it, but there are always opportunities to learn. And I think going in with that mindset, your employer is going to appreciate that already 10 times more than if you came in knowing everything, but you were like a stink to work with and it wasn't enjoyable. So I think keep that passion that you have for your career and whatever you choose and what you enjoy. And then, yeah, put yourself out there, do things that make you uncomfortable, because you're only going to grow from it.
Yeah, that's like golden wisdom there, Sarah. That's fantastic. Again, helping young people make some next steps. Volunteering, it's such a great way in high school to get some of this skill building under their belts. Anything you recommend or that you've heard about through your programs that you said, hey, this would be a good one for any potential event planners?
Yeah, I don't honestly know of specific opportunities, but I do know volunteering is a great way to get your foot in the door. It's a great way to network. I like, especially for sports, they're always looking for like ticket people or whatnot. Um, so just taking that, and then while you're there, introduce yourself to people, let people know that you're interested in events and that's something that you want to do. That even to the or like being able to put that on your resume as well is something in an interview that's going to give you a leg up over other people. But yeah, volunteering was a huge part of my college experience. I was in a scholarship group for it, so I did that a lot, and it not only feels good, but it could benefit you as well.
Yeah, I think it's a great way to test out skill sets, and it gives you experiences of, do I really like this? Like you experienced in high school when you were doing a lot of that work. If
Definitely.
a young person's interested, do you know if the downtown market does any type of job shadows? If a student wanted to come in and follow you around, is that something that's allowed at all? Do you know, or do people get to come in for tours and maybe talk to you about your job? Tell us about that.
Yeah, for sure. So I honestly don't have experience with job shadows personally, but if that was something that somebody was interested in, I'm happy to see if that would be a possibility, kind of coordinate that out. I think that's a great idea. But yeah, if you're interested in coming for a tour, you can always email me. I'm the one that kind of does the building, and would be happy to show anybody around or just talk more about my position and kind of get you a better feel of it, for sure.
And just like I found you, for young people that are watching this, how I find people like Sarah is I go to the internet and I went to the Downtown Markets website and I looked up their staff, and that's how I found Sarah. So it's like, if you want to do a job shadow in a career that you think you might like, that's as easy as it is. Adults want to help young people, right? I know Sarah was really excited to be sharing her own story today. Because tell us about when you remember people coming into your program at college.
Yeah. So when I was in college, my professors were great at pulling people that were already in full-time jobs in the kind of the fields and different types of fields. And I just remember thinking like, oh, I want to do that. Like that would be so cool to be so confident and passionate about my career, which I am, to be able to kind of share that with other people. So for sure.
And here you are. Now you're a role model doing your first career chat. I love it. And just an encouragement to the school counselors on this call, use these recordings. We put them in our archives so that students can watch these things, but invite people into your school, help provide those experiences. Well, we're at that time, Sarah, you get to kind of share your final word of wisdom. You've provided a lot today. I mean, the whole putting yourself out there is just gold. Absolutely. And not shying away from experiences. Anything else you'd like to share with young people who might be watching this?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing for me that kind of helped me decide what I wanted to do is I just paid attention to what I enjoyed. I was really in tune with that part of myself and researched, you know?
Yeah, research for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here today, Sarah.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me. It was a great time.